And I'm wondering, did I do this to myself? I ask again, and I'm wondering, did I do this to myself? As I sit here alone, I ask myself, did I injure myself? As I ask the Lord, did I do this to myself? I wrote this song about 20 years ago. That crying in your beer music, country music, the blues, love songs, excuse me, and ballads. My mother used to say that so many people are preparing that good man or that good woman, are preparing that man or that woman, are preparing their husband or their wife, are preparing their fiance, are preparing their better half, are preparing their fiance, are preparing their common-law husband or common-law wife to leave them. And you know, and you ought to be tired by now. So many of you all, and I'm certain of this, I don't know you by name, but you're guilty of this. You're so mean. You have nothing good to say. You always got something nasty to say. You're racist. You're racial. You're ghetto. You're bigoted. And you wonder why you're by yourself. My mother used to say that so many people are preparing that good man, that good woman, that strong wife, that strong husband, that kind man, that kind wife to leave them. You know, it's a lot of things I don't understand, and I pray to the Most High God, that I don't ever learn and understand how to mistreat someone, somebody, anyone, anybody. You ought to be tired by now. I mean, your heart is already beating 72 times a minute. Your heart already trying to pump blood and keep you alive. And you adding extra added stress, and you got loneliness on the horizon. You got loneliness on layaway. You got pain and sleeping in a fetal position already stored up and waiting for you. You ought to be tired by now. Your heart, your spiritual heart is tired. I remember one time I asked the Most High God, to give me a supernatural myocardial infarction. That's a heart attack of God. And it changed me because I'm conscious, and I thank God for my conscience. But so many men and women, when the bottom falls out of your marriage or relationship that you are responsible for destroying, you blame your spouse, you blame your ex, you blame the person that they ran off with or met or happened to be pushed into the loving arms thereof. You ought to be tired by now of mistreating every woman you ever been with, mistreating every man you ever been with. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not trying to insult and injure or to assume, but how many times have you been married and it's been your fault? How many husbands have you lost? How many wives have you driven away? How many men have you pushed out of your own household? How many real women have you slayed with your tongue and your mind and your mindset? You ought to be tired by now, and you blame everybody else for your mistakes, your decisions. You blame everybody else, co-worker, for your loneliness, your loony and your Looney Tunes. You blame everybody else for your hate mongering. You blame everybody else for your racism and your racialness. You blame everybody else for your bigotry. You blame everybody else for your anger. You blame your ex-husband, your ex-wife, your new wife, your new husband. You blame the guy that you drove your girlfriend or ex-wife into the loving arms thereof. You blame the woman who you drove your husband or boyfriend or fiance into the awaiting and loving arms thereof. My mother used to say, and I believe this, so many are preparing that man or that woman to leave them. And when they do leave, you don't cry. Take it. They took your mess. They took your anger. They took your racism. They took your you being a bigot. They took your racialness. They took your one-sidedness. They took your verbal insult, verbal assumptions. They took your verbal assault. They took your physical assault. They took your domestic violence prone episodes. They argue with you for 8, 9, 10, 12, 20, 30 years. I don't know how long they put up with it, but you ought to be tired by now. Your heart ought to be tired. And you wonder why you're by yourself. It's going to be a hard sell to try to convince somebody else to be with you. You want your 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, brother, sister. How many people have you driven away because of your heart, your mind, and your mouth? Those three things, your heart, your mind, and your mouth, have driven so many people away from you. And you're still blaming everybody else for your self-inflicted demise, for your self-inflicted heart problems, for your self-inflicted mind problems. You blame the lawyer. You blame the mother-in-law, the father-in-law. You ought to be tired by now. You blame everybody else but yourself. I pray that this touch your heart, if you have one. I pray this touches the inside of your heart, if you have one. I pray this touches your mind and everything about you. I pray it gets your attention. You ought to be tired by now. I know you're alone. I know you're angry. But you did it to yourself. Ask God to touch your mind and heart. Bow before the Most High God. High God. Ask Him to remove the racism, the racialness, the being a bigot, being crazy, mean, ornery, nasty. Ask Him to operate on you. And then and only then will your heart receive a supernatural and magnificent change. You ought to be tired by now. Your heart is tired of pumping blood. Maybe. It's built to pump 72 times a minute. But is your heart able to keep up the hate? Is your heart able to keep up the meanness? Is your heart able to keep up the treasonous ways against your family? Is your heart able to keep up with the meanness, the nastiness, the ornery? Is your heart able to keep up with all of the evil that you do day after day after day? You ought to be tired by now. I pray your heart don't give out before you give in to God. God bless you with a supernatural myocardial infarction. Peace. 1.